What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm hosting today. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesdays with Brady. Ladies and Douzable. What's up?
Gotta love it.
You know, dudes, you probably don't know this, but back in the day, Brady and I used to fire off. What are they called?
The air horns?
Regular air horns, yeah. We do.
I've told this story too many times that dudes have probably heard it.
Okay.
About the University of Miami's practice. They were all about speed. So I went to go see the team in training camp, and they were like, it had this big thing out there outside of their practice facility, and they threw a deep ball, but they didn't complete it.
Yeah.
But as they're jogging back, all of a sudden you heard this air horn. It's like, bow, 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 bow. Mark Power, 21 miles per hour. Like they were like excited about how fast he was running because he hit the fastest one of the day. Yeah. And I'm like, but dang, that wasn't even a completed ball.
How are you hype about an incompletion?
I don't know, but it was pretty dope. Like they had a DJ out there. They were hyping things up. They were, I was like, all right, the U's back.
I was like, is the U back?
Maybe this year. That year it wasn't. But this year, maybe.
Was that with like Al Golden when they had 9 draft picks?
Al Golden definitely not doing that.
No, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Al Golden's doing like what he's like, meh, 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 meh. something a lot. He wears a tie. What do you think about? Do you guys ever play for a coach who wore a tie?
No, he doesn't wear a tie anymore now. Now he calls defense for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
He
don't do that when he's the head coach, I guess.
Is he? Yeah. So did he put 10 guys on the field, or
that was covered, right?
I mean, I've heard it all at this point. Like people ask me, "Hey, is 10 Things I Hate About You your favorite movie?"
That's tough.
That's good. That's good.
Trust me, there's been a lot of.
What did you think about Marcus?
Would you like this 10-ounce coffee? I was like, Jesus.
What do you think about Marcus Freeman's explanation to that?
I think we should talk about something else. I think we should talk about.
It's just weird because like. He was like, I would rather not get a penalty, but we know this. In a penalty, they're only moving the ball up half an inch because it's on the 1 yard line.
Here's what I always say in these scenarios. And maybe you felt this way, maybe you didn't. Yeah. Like, ultimately, when you're a player out there in the field, you got to be able to fix the problems that you have.
Correct.
Whether it's a bad play call, you're missing someone, you got to be able to, A, recognize it because it happened 2 plays in a row. And B, have a solution in your mind. I mean, these are smart kids. They're smart players. Why they didn't recognize they were down 1 in a critical situation like that was probably the most surprising.
Veteran linebackers they have on that team.
Yeah.
Just run into the center before the play starts.
Yeah, do something crazy. Yeah. Take your helmet off and throw it across the field. Exactly. Like do anything other than what they did. So
it's tough.
How long have your sister and AJ Hawk been married? 10 years or longer? Is that
longer than that?
It was a 10 joke. It was a 10 joke. So it was 10.
What
about McAfee?
It was funny until you did it, Will. So thank you for ruining it. Yeah.
Well, it was really more of a segue to, I heard you were on.
I'll tell you one more. I went to dinner last night. The waiter comes over and I'm literally like getting a steak. And I was like, oh, could I have the 12-ounce filet? He's like, well, we have a 10-ounce one here. So
no, he did not.
On the menu, I looked, I was like, what? And he was like, he looked at me, I go, oh. Real funny. They had a 12-ounce and an 8-ounce. They didn't even have a 10-ounce on the menu.
Yeah, that's so disrespectful. You're just trying to enjoy a dinner.
I was like, I can't wait to not tip you now.
Hey, guess who's
he felt like it was worth it, he said.
Yeah, guess who's not getting 10%, pal? Like,
now you are getting 10%. I was going to give you like 25, 30, but now you're getting 10%.
That's a good
in all seriousness, like I was really surprised. I know that you were on like a Notre Dame podcast last week, and somebody was like, I think it was a Notre Dame podcast. And somebody, just talking about the Irish having a great season, and somebody brought up the famous jersey, like your sister's famous split jersey. You're like, that thing never coming out again. It's staying at mom's house. It's in the closet. Lock it up. Don't bother. AJ, Ohio State fans, don't bother thinking you'll ever see that again. And like 12 hours later, like Pat McAfee's like jumping through a table in it. Like, what? Like, how did that happen?
That was by design. So I was trying to fool AJ from thinking that I wasn't going to take it. And so the deal was whoever got to the jersey first got to use it. And unfortunately, my flight got delayed flying into Columbus.
Oh, wow.
So he got to it before I did. He got the jersey. He got to South Bend. And that's how McAfee ended up wearing it. So.
Okay. I have one more Notre Dame question. That's not trolling question. I saw, you and I follow each other on Instagram. Of course, no big deal. I'm sure you enjoy my post, all my Taylor Swift post. I enjoy all your Notre Dame posts. And I was like, there was a group of you guys is a group of Notre Dame celebrities on the sideline, like your boy Shane Gillis, who, I mean, really like the funniest human being on planet Earth. Like, I think guy's hilarious. I highly recommend you check out his Netflix special, particularly for some of his impersonations and general humor. But I'm curious, like, who's the most famous like Notre Dame guy? Like, who's the big dude? It's you, right? It's you, right? Isn't it you?
No, it's not me. I would never consider myself to be that. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously Vince Vaughn was the celebrity.
Vince Vaughn, Vince Vaughn.
I mean, he's a huge deal. He's a big deal. Shane, especially with the players now, the students now, like he's a huge. I told this story when we were in Ireland. You know, I was in a bar with Will Ferrell. And people in the bar were going nuts for Will Ferrell. But then Shane came over later on that night after he got done with one of his sets. Yeah. And like we had to find a different way out of the building because like they got word of what bar he was in, and everyone started like crowd around outside, and they were trying to shut down, and they wouldn't let people in. So Shane's a superstar now. I mean, he's really skyrocketed over the past couple of years.
Dan Patrick, I heard him tell us. I think it was a Pardon My Take, maybe telling this story about how Will Ferrell brought to Ireland his set of artificial testicles from Step Brothers. Like he brought them with him, and he has it.
I mean, from the drum set scene.
Yeah, he keeps them in a case.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because I think there's always been like those have to be fake. Those aren't Will Ferrell's actual testicles, right? You
know what this brings up, though, Will? I'm glad you brought this up because now we can segue into seeing if Leger knows about nudicles.
Harry's like, what the hell is happening?
You know about this? We've talked about this on the show before.
You guys have?
You can get your dog prosthetic testicles.
Yes.
I swear to God. Like when you get your dog neutered, you can get them prosthetic testicles so they still can keep their confidence because they don't have it down there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, you like, listen, dude, I know that we cut off your nuts. However, we got some good. We upsized. We bit with the biggie size.
Can you imagine the dog's face there? He's like,
I wonder how the dog feels in that situation. Like,
couldn't do it to mine. I couldn't do it. Kept those things intact. Now that becomes a problem though when you got another female dog.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because when they talk about like dogs and heat, and you've heard probably coaches talk about that before.
It's bad.
Until you experience that, like what a male dog's like trying to take on a female dog.
Oh, dude.
Heat.
Dude.
It's. I mean. Well, first off, that's why Will's from a big family. I mean, all the men in Will's family are like dogs in heat.
That's right. True. I mean, actually, in like no joking, like when growing up, like my parents live on a farm in High Point, North Carolina. It's called Black Dog. It's called Black Dog Farm because we raised a bunch of black labs growing up, and like we had 2 litters of 11 when I was a kid, and we had the female there, and like she would get in the heat, and you would have like dogs wander in from like down the way, like some dog you'd never see would stroll up and be like, yo, what's up? Like, where's the lady at? And you're like, dude, get off the property, man. What is your problem? So anyway,
let's make a smooth transition here. Speaking about tracks, let's see if the Jets can get things back on track.
Speaking of,
I'm gonna go. Dogs, Cougars. Okay.
Oh, that's a good one, Zach Wilson. Yeah.
Cougars are. Yeah.
So we'll get to the Britney Spears stuff. I mean, the Britney Spears, the Taylor Swift stuff. Oh, we were joking. It's like, who would be like, because Chiefs, Jets, like who's Zach Wilson's girl? And I threw out Britney Spears, older, famous.
It has to be older, dude. Britney Spears isn't a Cougar.
Britney Spears is old as hell, bro.
For him it is.
For him, I think older, like Sofia Vergara.
That's a good one.
She's much. Britney Spears is 41.
I was gonna say, you gotta think Zach's only like 23.
No, he's older than that.
No.
He's like 25.
This is his third year, bro. He came
He's
in
24.
20,
24 split the difference.
21.
24 turning when? 25. But all I'm saying is, so Sofia Vergara, it's got to be double his age. I think she's over 50, right?
She might be like 65 and just an absolute smoke show.
Okay. Well, that would be who I would throw in there.
Meryl Streep.
Oh my goodness.
That's a little now,
what are we doing now, Will?
She's 74.
Now you're calling that something different.
So back to the Jets. Got in and out of that little whatever that was in 10 minutes.
Cat fight.
Yeah.
No. I mean, look, this is why I enjoy my Tuesdays with you guys. It is Wednesday. It's not Tuesday. I think we were initially on Wednesday. Anywho, the Jets, do they have a quarterback controversy? According to Rich Cimini of ESPN, the Jets defense is losing patience with, and quote, not happy with Robert Saleh continuing to support Zach Wilson. There is, quote, tension in the locker room, and the defensive players believe that anybody else would get benched if they were playing like Zach Wilson. Don't know if you guys remember, this has happened last year. Brady, what is this locker room? What is it? I mean, like,
well, don't start with me, because I'd rather hear from the defensive player, because he can speak firsthand. Like, how frustrating is it?
It is very frustrating when you go out there and you give up 13 points, right? And let's go back to last year, Brady and Will. This Jets defense versus the Patriots gave up 3 points.
I know.
And lost the game.
I know.
3 points.
Someone try to tell y'all.
And lost the game. So
Preach.
it's very frustrating if you're on that defensive side of the ball. And then you got to think about it. If you're Garrett Wilson, right? If you're Breece Hall, like, how frustrating is it? Like, and again, does Zach deserve all the blame? Nobody deserves a good portion of it, because if you just look at the film, some of the things you would think a third-year quarterback would be able to do as far as going through progressions and not just checking the ball down. He had issues with that last year.
He's lost all confidence.
He has no confidence. You can clearly see it. And it, like, when they're backed up, right, they're playing cover two. And for people that don't know, that's 2 half safeties. The corners are playing short to deep in that scenario, right? He hit a whole shot later in the game to Allen Lazard. But earlier in the game, he didn't even look at Garrett Wilson in that whole shot. He literally just checked it down after the first hitch, which shows you he's so terrified to make a mistake.
Well, it's twofold. And in particular, in that play you're talking about, it was a 7-man protection.
Yeah.
So as a quarterback, in 7-man protection,
you should have time.
You have more time.
Yeah.
And the fact that in that drop, you don't at least even get your eyes over there to see whether or not you've got that spot, and you look for the check down. It shows you he doesn't have confidence in throwing the football, pushing it down the field. And that's something it's fragile. I know you talk to guys like Pete Prisco who will be like, well, be tougher. Like, the truth of the matter is there's only one position that gets the scrutiny that the quarterback gets. And once you lose your confidence in the NFL, especially in a big market like New York, it's hard to get it back. And it's hard to be able to do what your job requires. And that's to make confident, decisive decisions in basically under 3.5 seconds.
Yes.
and that's hard to do if you don't have any confidence.
For sure. And to add to that point, right, yes, Zach deserves a lot of blame. And you talked about his confidence isn't there. But Nathaniel Hackett deserves a lot of blame, too. I mean, I watch film week in and week out of look at what the LA Rams are doing with the roster they have. McVay does a masterful job, even though Stafford has played a lot of years in this game, of moving guys around pre-snap motion, bunch formations, just to get the spacing so he has an easy map to look at. You don't see that at all with the Jets right now. Again, Hackett was running this offense in the mind that Aaron Rodgers was going to run it.
Right.
But you have to adjust to the quarterback that you have now. And he's not helping Zach at all either. So
that was one of my biggest concerns once Rodgers went down was, really now it thrust Nathaniel Hackett to the forefront of his play calling, his ability to scheme up teams. And based on how it looked last year with the Denver Broncos, it wasn't pretty. And now you're in a situation, too, where you got a quarterback who doesn't have confidence. The team doesn't have confidence in him, and you've got a play caller now that feels probably that additional pressure. So a lot of a recipe for a perfect storm, if you will. I would say this though, as far as the locker room goes, the tough thing is it's not like Zach wants to play poorly. It's not like he wants this to be the situation, right? And I would think every player in the locker room would hope their head coach would support him like Robert Saleh has, at least publicly. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah. But publicly, he said everything you should say as a supportive head coach. So kudos to him for that. But you feel it as a quarterback. When you're not playing well or when you're out there and the offense isn't doing its part and the defense is, there is that divide. It becomes very apparent. Yeah. I've been a part of teams where I could feel that. Now, a lot of the defensive guys were able to handle themselves in a manner where they're professional about it, and they just went out and did their job until eventually it broke. Correct. And they couldn't do it any longer. But if you really want to be honest about who deserves the blame, it's really the Jets front office. They should have never put themselves in this position that they're in right now. They could have moved on from Zach Wilson before the season, gave him a fresh start, probably got something back for him in return. I mean, I would say this, Will. Who deserves more trade compensation? Trey Lance for what he done so far in the league, or Zach Wilson?
They're
both in the trade market.
Zach. I mean,
Before this year, probably Zach Wilson.
Probably Zach Wilson, just because you've seen something. Like Trey Lance, you're like, this dude might be injury prone and has thrown like 42 passes in 7 years. So,
and I think the harder thing too is like didn't produce in a system where like every quarterback has produced in Kyle Shanahan's system. He didn't quite as much, and so I think you had more questions probably about Trey Lance, and people might have looked at Zach Wilson and said before the season, hey, I'm willing to at this point in time in his rookie deal trade for him, see what I've got in him this year, maybe pick up the 5th-year option, maybe not. I still have him for another year under contract for a relatively cheap deal. And now you don't have any of that.
Oh, none.
And so to me, the front office put them in this position by keeping him on the roster, not getting what they could for him, and saying, well, we're for the future. All the BS that was said, that to me was the biggest mistake the Jets have made.
Yeah,
Aaron's going to.
And I said this in the offseason when they were trading for Rodgers, I thought he should have been part of the compensation. You got to look at it. Jordan Love didn't have a backup at all, right? They ended up drafting a quarterback, I believe, in the 5th or 6th round from Penn State. But up until that point, he had no competition, right? And they were trying to see if he was going to be the guy of the future. Why not bring in Zach Wilson and see if you could resurrect his career? You talked about it, the pressure of playing in New York City, right? I think that really has falling on Zach Wilson's back. And to your point, I don't know if he can recover from it. So go to Green Bay, Wisconsin, where there isn't a lot of noise, isn't a media stronghold that you can go out there, maybe resurrect your career. I thought it made a lot of sense to package him in that trade for Aaron Rodgers. They didn't do it. To your point, they were thinking, well, maybe if he sits behind Rodgers for 2 years, and we talked about this, well, then you had to make a decision on him after that either way, because his 5th-year option was coming up. You don't pick it up. Then what are you going to do at quarterback position? Right. You're going to have to draft somebody anyway. So to me, it always made sense to get rid of him, not to get rid of, but to trade him and see what you could get back for him. I thought he should have been part of that trade to Green Bay. That way him and Jordan Love could have battled it out, and then you would have known that Jordan Love was going to be your future quarterback. But now you have a backup in Zach Wilson, and the Jets should have brought in a veteran guy to get behind Rodgers.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, like the pressure of New York, just thinking about it. Because like you played with Geno for what, 3 years, and then Fitz for a year.
It's real.
Like and I know we like ripped the Jets because of the guys they drafted and they haven't worked out, but like the only guy who's worked out in terms of modern quarterbacking in New York in like with either of those teams is Eli Manning. He just happened to play for like 20 years. I mean, Geno, Darnold.
Well, and by the way, think about like it. Eli obviously did well enough at the position to be able to get them to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But his biggest moments weren't in Giants. It wasn't in MetLife. It wasn't in the Meadowlands.
No.
His biggest moments were on the road, like in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl.
In Arizona and then in Indianapolis, with especially with those 2 big throws. And like, I mean, and he's also a Manning. Like, there's a, like that is a pretty rare. There's a finite number of people who are Manning level quarterbacks, and so I think I don't know, man. I think it's tough to even Aaron Rodgers.
To answer this question though, real quick. To answer this question, like the toughest thing that Robert Saleh has in front of him, and even Zach Wilson is when like there's just uncertainty around this. Players hate that. Like players love playing fast and things being decisive, right? That's how they play. That's how they party. Whatever it is you're talking about, that's how athletes are for the most part. They like being very decisive about all this. So the problem with this locker room right now is there's just kind of some uncertainty. Like, are you going to bring a quarterback or are you not? You're publicly backing Zach Wilson, but then you see reports about them searching out and inquiring about Matt Ryan, whether or not they did or did. Who knows? Obviously, Matt said that wasn't the case. He's got no interest. Wentz, we don't know. So they signed Trevor Siemian now, the practice squad. Eventually, he'll be elevated to the active roster, we assume. So is he a part of the future starting plan or not?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm a defensive player, if I'm in that locker room, like I want to know. Like every other situation in the game of football or with our schedule for that week, we know it's mapped out. We understand. Like I understand mentally how I need to get myself ready to play, to prepare, and all that. This is a scenario where like there's so much cloudiness around it that I think that's what's frustrating. If you're just openly honest, say, look, we know he's struggling, but he's our guy. We drafted him. We're sticking by him. Defense, you step up. Offense, you step up. Run the football. Garrett, you're going to have to make some plays out there, okay? Stop complaining because we're going to throw you the football. It might not be perfect. Make a play. That's easier to deal with. Like, if you know that's what you're dealing with, then that's what you're dealing with. But when it's still kind of like, well, he's our guy kind of for now. Or the front office, they make that decision. It's like everyone in that locker room is going, dude, come on. Like, give us some clarity for this situation so we can then move forward with our mindset every week.
Well, the thing I know about Saleh, and you made a great point, right? What he says publicly is not what he's saying behind closed doors. Like you said, he's not going to throw anybody under the bus. I guarantee.
He found that in Hard Knocks.
Yeah, exactly.
He does not like when you tell him that his team plays tough. All right? He's got a 4-letter word.
He doesn't hold people accountable. That's ridiculous. He definitely holds people accountable. So I guarantee he's telling Zach, like, you got to play better. And he even actually said it today. Like, he's like, we're not numb to the fact that we know that Zach Wilson has to play better. Like, we've said this to him. I think he's already come out and said, like, he's the best. He's the guy that gives us the best chance to win. And if you look on our current roster, that's the truth right now. So he's not lying about that. It's, to your point, just frustrating as a defensive player or as Garrett Wilson, as Breece Hall, because it's like, is this the best we got? And right now it is, because they went all in on Aaron Rodgers and thought that Zach Wilson was going to be more of a tutelage type situation where he wasn't going to see the field. So they put themselves in this position. It sucks, but it's just like right now, Zach Wilson does give them the best chance to win.
No, you're right. And I was actually close to you, Will. Like, had they not like gone out and gotten Aaron Rodgers, everyone's like, oh my God, we got Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
Like the highs that they felt, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
I mean, they probably wouldn't feel the way they do right now, or at least not as low as they feel, right?
No, they would be just low. You wouldn't be like, we got so. It's like, I mean, look, like, I mean, it sucks, and I understand it because it's like an NC State football season. It's like, we're the top 10 in the country. It's like, well, I can't wait to lose at Syracuse. You know, it's like that's just like how it's going to play. It's just how it plays out. Okay, it's just like, we can't have nice things. Can't have nice things.
Ask you too, how do you think Trevor Siemian feels walking that locker room when they're like, probably thinking they're going to sign, I don't know, when someone else who's like, and they're like, and Simeon walks in and is like, hi, guys.
And everybody's like,
I'm like,
right now they might think he's the savior.
Maybe.
You know, there's another guy out there that they could add to the practice squad too, Brady. I think he wants to be added to the practice squad. A fella hadn't been heard of in a while, Colin Kaepernick.
Add him to the practice squad then. I mean, here's the only thing I'd say, though, by the way, two things. One, fact that J. Cole was like, awesome.
Shout out 919.
Shout out J. Cole. That's pretty dope. It's really dope. The only thing I'd say on this subject is, like, why not write it to all 32 teams?
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to play, why would you limit yourself to one team?
Yeah.
Like, put yourself out there to all 32. And if you really want to play and no one gives you an opportunity in the NFL, go to the XFL or USFL. Yeah. Dominate and be like, dude, I can play. Go to the CFL. Like, I can play. I mean, you're at a point now 7 years after the fact where I understand that people feel like, based on his play, going to a Super Bowl and all that, that he's more deserving of that. The one thing the NFL will humble you with and teach you is you don't deserve anything. When you get there, you got to earn everything. And if you don't, you're out. And so he's been out for 7 years now. And it's like, all right, if the NFL doesn't want to give him that shot, go to the XFL, go to the USFL, continue to build your brand and your career off that. But I just don't like the fact that the letter was only written to one team. Right, it's all 32 teams, man. Like expand
on there, though.
I know. Can you? Hey, J. Cole wrote it, dude. That's pretty cool.
Hey, J. Cole again from my neck of the woods. I would, I mean, imagine, and like this is not going to happen, but it's like, you know, the NFL did the script commercials before the season. It's like, well, like what's this crazy thing going to be like? Haha, we're going to shock everybody. It's like, what if Colin Kaepernick started for the Jets on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs with Taylor Swift in a luxury box? Like, you couldn't make that up if you tried. Like, that would be the most insane storyline of all time.
Well, now it's out there, so maybe it'll happen.
Yeah, maybe it'll happen. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about undefeated teams in the NFL and discuss Kevin O'Connell's ultimatum. Stay right here. Big Six Podcast back in just a second. Next.
Electrifying action is back to back to back on CBS Sports Network.
All right, 3 undefeated teams remaining in the NFL. It's hard to win 3 games in a row. Real hard to win 3 games in a row out of the gate. Each of them, the Eagles, 49ers, and Dolphins, coming off of
that major risk this week of going down. Yeah.
Who is?
Dolphins, huh?
Yeah.
I already knew it.
Yeah.
I think Buffalo wins, too. I think Buffalo wins that game.
I mean, they're favored by 3.
They are favored.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan Wilson in, what was it, on the Monday pod? One of these pods, no, it was maybe it was Katie and Emery on the Monday pod. We were doing like the early look ahead for the week 4 lines, and they were like, why aren't the Dolphins favored? I was like, now I'm not saying like just them, but it's like, if there are a lot of people
never.
There's a lot of people asking, like, the Dolphins just scored 70. Why aren't they favored? And it's like
classic NFL.
That's how you know the Bills are winning by 3. Because like
Vegas always knows.
Correct. And it's in Buffalo. Buffalo's a really good football team. Eagles handled their business against the Buccaneers on the road on Monday Night Football in some nasty weather. 49ers dismantled the Giants on Thursday night, have a long break, and the Dolphins, of course, dropped a 70-burger, the most points scored in the Super Bowl era. Only team in NFL history, right, with 70 points and 700-plus yards.
Gracious.
Brady.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about these 3 teams? And do you find it fascinating or at least interesting that 2 of the 3 undefeated teams in the NFL are Shanaclanic?
Shanaclanic?
Did you say a clonic?
I don't know. Shanaclanic?
I think what's becoming very apparent is, especially because of the way the rules are set up, offensive football, especially some of the best offensive minds of play calling, is being pushed to the forefront. And it's very easy to identify how they can find advantages if you have the right personnel and scheme.
True.
And so you're seeing that from Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins. You see that from the San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. Mm-hmm. And one way they measure it, and you can go through, and Warren Sharp, I believe, does a kind of a good breakdown of breaking down a lot of the things that you see as far as pre-snap movements, shift motions, different personnel groupings, all of that. And then they correlate that with the success. And I'm not saying every single team that moves players around a bunch pre-snap is always going to have success, but you play defense. I mean, tell me right now.
I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Tell me right now what the defense has to do as soon as you see, let's just put it this way. The tight end switches sides, goes from the left to the right on the line, and then you have motion back across. Correct. Take me through all the adjustments that you have to make.
So first and foremost, communication's a big key, right? As soon as somebody moves, guys have to be talking. And you talked about it, right? The personnel that the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins have. When you have a guy like Tyreek Hill, it puts the fear of God in defensive coordinators because of the speed element. So as soon as he motions, you'll see it on tape. You'll see the linebackers adjust, you'll see the safeties adjust, which opens up plays for other players. So anytime Mike McDaniel does that, and we talked about this earlier, I'm like, why don't we see any motion with the Jets? Why don't we see any bunch formations with the Jets? Just to open it up again, when you have the personnel that the Dolphins have, it's a little different, right?
So here's the only thing I'd say, though, to that is when you don't have their personnel, you should be doing it more. Because
I think so, too.
You actually should be helping to create edges, create space, create mismatches. One of the reasons why you don't do it is sometimes quarterbacks don't feel as comfortable with all that movement because you kind of want the defense to be set in at least what they're playing so I can get a pre-snap read. Now, the easiest way always to help determine that is, let's say you're in base personnel, okay, which is 2 running back sets, 2 tight end sets, something like that. Usually most defenses match. Yeah. Usually you'll get an indicator if you're in some sort of slot, right? Yeah. So you got your tight end to the right, both receivers to the left. Teams are going to decide what kind of zone they want to play or if they're going to play man against that. Yeah. Usually there's different tells. And so as long as you can give your quarterback, a tell, it's going to help him play more confident, more decisive, like we talked about earlier. And it's probably going to help you find the mismatch you're looking for. If it's man, I know who I'm going to go to in its man-to-man coverage. If it's zone, I know who I'm trying to exploit within the zone coverage. Right. So you don't always have quarterbacks who love a ton of movement before. Aaron Rodgers doesn't like a ton of that either.
You can tell because
he wants them to be static so he can see it, and then that way he can adjust and he can get to what he wants to, and even change the routes. Sometimes you're trying to change your formation, with the motions and the shifts, but other times you're saying no, be static because I want to see what they're doing, so I can then change the concept and change the route. So it all depends on the type of quarterback you have and how they excel.
This is probably a dumb question, but I didn't play quarterback in the NFL, so I'll ask it anyway, and I think people would be interested in it. As you mentioned, you can motion somebody across. If he's followed, you get it's a man indicator versus zone indicator.
Sometimes,
not all the time, of course. Right.
Sometimes they'll play what's called, we used to call it 2Z. And so you go in base personnel, you motion them across from your normal tight on the right with your Z and your X. You motion them across the formation slot. The corner travels with them. They still play zone out of that. So all your pregame prep is going to tell you whether or not they're a team that does something like that.
Which is awesome too, because if you have a quarterback who leans on that motion, then you maybe you play a little chess and try to do that. If you're Aaron Rodgers, for instance, and are you determining post snap whether it's man or zone, or are there tells you're looking for, or is there stuff, or even defensively, dudes, where you're like, all right, we don't want to give this away. You know what I'm saying? Like if Rodgers wants his guys static. I can tell you
pre-snap, if we're in an empty formation and I've got a tight end or a running back on the outside, I already know what the coverage is.
Yep.
Okay.
I already know what the coverage is based on who's covering that running back or tight end, and based on then what the safety, what the front looks like, what the safety rotation looks like. I can tell you exactly what it is. For my pregame prep, and any type of empty formation, it's the greatest way to expose what a defense is doing.
Exactly.
So as soon as you put him out there, then once you motion him back, so he's in the backfield next to you, you can run whatever you want against what you now know the coverage to be.
So you motion him out and then motion him back in as a way to just be like, all right,
or he just starts out there.
Yeah.
He can just start out there, then you motion him back in. Or shift him back in.
Well, if you see a linebacker go out there, then you know for sure it's most likely going to be man coverage. Depending on, like Brady said, where the safety rotation
And by the way, if it is a linebacker, you're looking at a thing, it's probably some sort of man, but not necessarily pressure. Why? Because you'd rather have a safety out there covering him, and you'd rather blitz the linebacker than the other way around, right?
Yeah.
You don't want a linebacker out there and cover to the safety.
You don't want to blitz the safety, linebackers in coverage. That's a easy
right, that's a layup. Like you want them out there for that mismatch.
Exactly.
So there's all sorts of little things like that give you tells. And that's why I like a bunch formation. Bunch formations are great. You can release a lot of different concepts that give you space with your receivers working on the defensive backs. But also because it's condensed, it allows the defense to disguise a little more if they're bringing pressure. And so sometimes it becomes a little harder to see for the lineman and for the quarterback and everyone involved.
Spicy. I like it. Okay. So while you guys were having that fascinating football discussion, like this is like how big of like a piece of NBA news would have to happen for me to warrant asking you guys about it right now?
NBA news?
NBA news. Like, would Dame Lillard being traded to the Bucks qualify?
That's what happened?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Who are the Trailblazers getting in return?
Probably a lot of picks.
No, but I've got an invested interest in this. I know a Bucks player well that I love. So
okay, well, name the Bucks player and I'll tell you if he's still with the Bucks.
Pat Connaughton.
Pat Connaughton is still on the Bucks. Here's the Bucks updated.
That's big.
Here's the Bucks updated.
All right.
Yeah.
Updated starting five for the Bucks right now. Dame Lillard, Pat Connaughton, Chris Middleton, Giannis, Brooke Lopez.
Hell yeah.
Have to get rid of
Let's go, Pat.
So it was a 3-team trade. All right, so this qualifies, right? This qualifies as like legit. Yeah. So you guys are like, what effing NBA transaction is Brinson about to bring up?
If it's Lillard, then yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the Bucks get Lillard. The Blazers get Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, yes, 3-team trade, Tumani Kamara, and a 2029 first-round pick. Ridiculous.
Oh, no, you said DeAndre Ayton?
Mm-hmm. The Suns get Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson.
They go to the Suns?
Yes.
Wow.
Huh. So the Bucks are
They
just
don't get any picks in that?
That's what Woj says right now.
The Blazers
I feel like that
trade.
I get. No, I was gonna say I feel like the Suns lose that trade.
Yeah,
they lose Ayton. Nurkic is really good though.
He is, but like
we still got KD and Booker.
Yes, is that more of like a cap clearing situation?
I think they didn't want to pay Ayton. I think they didn't want to pay Ayton. And the Bucks.
I think he's not going to be as featured. Nurkic is not going to be as angry about that than Ayton probably is.
Well, and Ishba just took over as their owner, so I'm wondering if he's, because they got to pay luxury tax, but that's not a hard cap.
Yeah.
And so maybe he's like, yeah, I'm not going to pay him. We're not going to spend the money on that.
Because they traded
Nurkic for Ayton. I'm not mad about that.
Yeah, I don't. So they traded.
Nurkic has more flexibility defensively too.
Yeah, Ayton is kind of more of a
solid 5. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So wait, the Suns now have.
Wait, but that's a good trade for the Bucks.
I'm about to say,
Milwaukee. Come on, Giannis.
Holiday. Who else did the Blazers?
Let's go, Pat.
So the Blazers got, Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Tumani Kamara, and a 2029 first-round pick. So the Suns are now.
That's what I'm saying. The Blazers, the Bucks win this. I don't see how that helps the.
Well, the Suns are now.
For the Suns, right? Because you get Ayton off the books. Nurkic is a team guy. He's going to be a good rebounder, good defender. He'll give you like 10 a game. Ayton's going to want at least 18 to 20 a game. With Booker and Durant, he's not getting that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and Ayton, by all accounts, is like pretty bad in the locker room. Yeah. So if you're the Suns, it's Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Josh Okogie, Durant, and Nurkic. I mean, that's pretty stout.
It's a solid line. The Bucks, though, my goodness, I did not see that trade.
I did not either.
One small market to another. Damian Lillard. He goes to Portland to Milwaukee.
Yeah, but
everybody thought he was coming down here.
I know.
You're like NBA news.
And that's the funny thing is that trade most impacts Miami because they were looking for him. But that's if you look at the East right now, it's Milwaukee and Miami, right? Like those are the two teams you have to be.
Milwaukee's probably like minus 200 to win the East.
I would say Boston still too.
Yeah,
Boston's in the mix.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, based on recent history, it's been Milwaukee and Miami.
I would guess Milwaukee is like -200 to win the East.
Oh, for sure. I would say maybe the championship, honestly.
I mean, I'm trying to see if I can, I don't see, they don't have, I think the odds got pulled off for obvious reasons.
Denver's still going to be there, but it's just
so the Bucks got a new big three. They got Giannis, Lillard, and then my guy Pat Connaughton. All right, let's go. That's my guy. That's my guy. Love that.
Speaking of
the big three,
speaking of small markets,
text him right now.
Oh yeah, text him, see what he says. Kevin O'Connell, 0-3, started 3-0 last year. They've lost. They're 0-3. They've lost all 3 games by 1 score. Regression is a real thing. Anyone who thought it wasn't is sort of crazy, because that's just how it works.
Well, hold on for a second. All right, they were 11-0 in 1-score games last year, and they're 0-3 this year. Like, you thought they might regress to the mean, but not to the extent this one has. And
I did, just because, like, this, Brady, that's not sustainable.
Well, you're not going to go 0-11 this year. You thought they were going to get like maybe you lose 5 of those games.
I'm looking at their schedule coming out. I was like, it's going to be a struggle.
It'll be a tough schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle for them. And honestly, they should have won last week. And Brandon Staley probably would have got fired for losing that game for the Chargers. But I knew a regression was coming. I know you picked them to win the NFC North.
He said, laughing.
Which is going to be tough now. They might be sellers at the trade deadline with Kirk Cousins on.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm calling the game this week. So
I'll tell you what. Before we continue this, we got a video of Kevin O'Connell's press conference. Let's hear what he had to say.
No, I think that's something that we're gonna fix one way or the other. Either guys are gonna do it, or we're gonna have to put other guys in the game that have ball security.
So, sort of an ultimatum. Guys got to stop. Bless you, or whatever that you would say for a cough.
It was a cough.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I was just trying to be polite. The Kevin O'Connell making it clear, like, dude, you got to hold on to the ball, right? If you want to keep playing. Do you think they trade Kirk Cousins? Do you guys think they trade Kirk Cousins?
If they continue to lose, I think it's a real possibility. A team like maybe the Jets or somebody else that's in need of a quarterback, if somebody gets injured down the road, could potentially do it. But I just want to go back to that statement, right? It was like, we're going to find guys that are going to do it the right way, hold on to the football. We all know who he's talking about. It's Alexander Madison, because he's not going to bench Jefferson.
It's why they traded for Cam Akers.
Yeah, they're not going to bench Jefferson, even though he had that big fumble first Philly. They're not going to bench Hawkinson, who they just paid a ton of money, even though he should have caught that pass to win the game. Yeah. So go ahead and put a name on it, Coach. Our running backs have to do a better job of securing the football. Because, again, unless you're going to treat everybody equal, which I think he's trying to do by saying this, there's no way you're benching JJ. There's no way you're benching Hawkinson. The only person that's fumbled the ball besides them is Matson. So, what are we talking about here, Coach O'Connell?
What do they say? They say 4 points of pressure. They used to say 3, and I always thought it was funny, because then one of the coach keeps saying, "No, we got this other way we're gonna carry. It's 4 points of pressure." And I was like, "Whoa, 4 points!" I thought it was just 3. No, 4 points of pressure. Breastplate, bicep. And on the football, I was like, "Wow, 4 points of pressure." So that reminded me of the times. Remember, there's 8-minute abs.
Yeah, no, it's from.
I'm gonna get shredded on 8-minute abs, and some dude comes over, is like, "Yeah, I can do that in 7 minutes."
That's literally Something About Mary. It's a serial killer from Something About Mary. But he's like,
exactly.
7-minute abs. He's like, "What about 6-minute abs? 6-minute abs." I thought you were doing a Something About Mary bit.
No, bro, I was saying that basically, there's gonna be 5 points of pressure. You carry it like this, you put your helmet on, and you get it's how many more ways? Yeah, what about 2 hands the whole time? 8 points of pressure. You don't fumble the football that way. Everyone's running around like it's the old school days when they first started football, in the scrum. So that was back when they were stabbing dudes when they'd run through the line of scrimmage. Literally. Way back when football was first invented, they had knives out there. They were running like this because they literally were getting punctured in the lung.
Patrick in the chat pointing out Kirk Cousins. Does Kirk Cousins, is that right? Kirk Cousins does have a no trade clause, doesn't he?
He does. So but that just means he has to agree to it.
Exactly.
Hopefully people understand that's not he can't be traded.
It's not that.
Well, no. But I mean, if the Vikings are 0-3 or let's say the Vikings are 0-4, they lose to the Panthers somehow on the road. Good call, Patrick Seeley, by the way, on the no trade clause. And then the Jets lose this weekend and they're 1-3, and the Vikings are like, screw it, let's trade Kirk to the Jets for a 7th round pick and just careen into the ground for Caleb Williams, and we have enough Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. They have enough where it's their offense. If you're Caleb Williams, you'd probably rather go to Minnesota than Arizona, right?
You'd be in the dome the whole year. I mean, but Arizona weather is great. But the only thing is, he'd have to play at Green Bay.
Well, hold on. If you're Kirk Cousins, I mean, there's a lot of considerations here. Like, for starters, you made a lot of money. You probably want to go somewhere where that team's going to invest in you long term. Yeah. Like I said this to Pete Prisco, who argued with me forever about the Jets situation, and talking to veteran quarterbacks or a guy like Carson Wentz. And my whole point is, like, a guy like Wentz, who, and he's not looked at the same as Cousins. Yeah. But like the next stop he gets, the next opportunity he gets, if he plays, it'll probably be his last if it doesn't work out. Yeah. And that could be, it will be. Like, that's it. Like, you only get so many stops in the NFL, and then the NFL moves on. So you got to be careful about where you pick and choose. And in this case, obviously in the chat, we just heard from it. Like, he's got the choice. He ultimately is going to be able to decide that. And if they tried to with the Jets, they tried to with Arizona, whoever else you're talking about, he might say, yeah, no, I'm going to finish things out here. This gives he's on pace to pass for 6,000 yards.
Yeah, it's
6,000 yards right now. I mean, Justin Jefferson's leading the league in receiving. Like, he's in a good spot. He's in with KOC, who's a great play caller. I don't know that you want to all of a sudden just say, yeah, I'm willing to go somewhere else just because we're 0-3 right now. I mean it's not impossible for them to be able to fight their way back. It's been done before.
I think in that division too, if you're talking about somewhere where you could fight your way back, it's like
who's running away with it right now?
Right, the Lions and the Packers both look. They're playing this
Thursday. Whoever wins that game will probably be the favorite going forward.
But even if you're Minnesota, and by the way, a really weird scenario. Charles Robinson pointed. I mean, I think good job by him pointing it out. But all 4 teams that are 0-3 this year play each other this week.
Yeah, somebody's gonna get a win.
Right.
Well, we think that unless they tie. What if, because we have one of the stupidest rules that comes into effect in the playoffs, but not in the regular season. It's like, God forbid we just say, hey, let's just figure out a way of ending this thing, and someone wins. There's no ties in the regular season.
It's like that's where we draw the line on player safety. Gives an extra 5 minutes of overtime, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, let's say that so 2 things here. One, if the Vikings go and beat the Panthers and the Broncos beat the Bears, and both teams are favored by 3.5 or 3 points, the Bears would own the current number 1 and number 2 overall picks, which is really interesting from that perspective. And then 2, let's say that one of the Packers or Lions, they could tie, of course, because we stupid rule, et cetera. But more than likely, one team is going to be 3-1. The other team will be 2-2. And if you're Vikings and you win that game and the Bears lose, like, they're out, the Bears are probably out of it. The Vikings are still just 2 games back of first place at 1-3. And it's like, you've got Jordan Love, and you haven't played either of these teams. So it's like you can make up all that ground. And I think that's probably why you don't end up hitting the panic button, especially when you can you could easily argue you have the best quarterback in the division.
Well, and think about this too. Like, Christian Darrisaw missed week 2 versus the Eagles. You had your backup Udo going, he gets hurt. Now you have Quisenberry. I mean, the center got hurt, Bradbury after 7 plays in week 1. So the offensive line's been a little banged up. You got a new defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, who's working with this group and trying to, get that shaped up from where it was a year ago. Like, I think the Vikings are going to be playing their best football in the second half of the season with some of the adversity they faced early on. So there's no reason to panic. There's no reason to sit there and say we need to hit like the reset button by any means. They just got to fix their mistakes. Like, and these mistakes are fixable.
Yeah,
again, 5 points of pressure. 5 points of pressure.
Bad turnovers in the red zone. You can't win like that.
Well, I mean, like, they could easily be 2-1. Like, they should have beaten the Chargers. You get the ball back at the 24-yard line to go get a touchdown. I wish we should have clipped Pete Prisco doing a Kirk Cousins imitation from yesterday's show. He's like, it was pretty amusing. Could have easily beaten the Buccaneers. You had
They could be 3-0.
Could be. I don't. The Eagles kind of had them. I think the Eagles were up like double digits.
Don't forget, Justin Jefferson fumbled the ball going in at half. They were about to take the lead.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
Bro, they gave up like 40 yards passing that game. They should have beat the Eagles.
It's a good point. Yeah, they could be 3-0. And if anyway, there's an old saying about aunts and uncles, but I won't do it. Instead,
we know that one.
We know that one for sure.
Instead, I will ask you about the most important news of week 3 in the NFL.
Oh, don't.
Do you mean to shake it off and go to something else? Is that what, like, do you want me to, do you want to leave a blank space on the rundown? Is that what?
Can't we just have football? Can't we just enjoy football? Like,
I mean,
Come on.
I'm
I'm not
Yeah.
asking for a lot. Look, my girls love Taylor Swift. I got 3 daughters. They love.
Oh,
Taylor
no, that's
Swift.
what you were going to talk. I was going to talk about something else. Oh, I didn't know you want to talk about. Oh,
Why is that in the bottom headline then, Will? Why is that? I mean, you missed. Yeah, you missed that.
You didn't see that in the bottom.
Nice try, pal. I'm
I
just
also
saying,
made
like,
2 Taylor Swift jokes.
It's like if I go to the golf course, okay, I don't want to be like playing Taylor Swift songs when I'm out there. All right, I want to be able to enjoy the game. Like I don't want to have to deal with this when I'm watching football and I'm watching what is like a dynasty right now with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I'm sorry, I'm not a Swiftie hater. I think she's phenomenal.
Come after you now. They'll come.
No,
after
that's what I'm saying. Like they'll all come after. I'm not asking for this. I'm just saying, can't we just have football? Can't we just have it to ourselves?
What happened? What happened to America, football, and nudicles? I mean, what happened to this country? You can't just talk about football and rubber dog testicles anymore. You just can't do
listen
it.
to all her music in the car, on the way to school, on the way back from school, whenever we go to soccer or anything else. Can't we just have football without having to?
Let's have that. Let's have. Yeah. I mean, you know, do you remember the movie PCU?
Of course.
Yeah, it was a great movie. I watched it like 3 times in the past like couple of months for some reason. But like that literally sounded like Jeremy Pivens. It's like, can't just a group of people get together and drink some beer, throw some meat. It's like, and just agree we're just not gonna protest. Like we're just not gonna protest. I do want to ask you though, like, do you believe that these two are dating? Because there's a lot of buzz and speculation, innuendo, conspiracy theories that this is all made up in order to like drum up, like in order to get like more publicity, which to me is kind of stupid. It's like, yeah, that's what Taylor Swift needs is more publicity.
Of all the people she picks, why is Travis Kelce? It's like,
well, because he tried to give her his phone number on that friendship bracelet at the.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of guys who've tried to give their phone numbers to Taylor Swift.
It is an odd coupling, though, right? Did you see how they walked out of the locker room, like not holding hands?
I mean, if they just started dating, that's not weird, I don't think.
Well,
I like what Micah Parsons said, though. Like, I agree with that. Like, if the NFL is going to lean into this, then all right, like shoot or shoot. Like all you superstars out there that are single, man, start taking your shot.
Take your shot.
Yeah, take your shot, man. Like, you might as well. Shot. I mean, might as well go after if they're going to highlight you like this. I mean, his jersey sales were up, 400%? Whatever it was. Yep. He got like 30,000 more followers immediately on a social media account. So
these are out there.
Yeah, if you're into that, man, shoot your shot.
We wrote a story on CBSSports.com that's like, let me see if I can find it real quick. It's pretty funny. And like, I was like, I can't believe we wrote this, but it was like, here's football. Hey, Swifties, welcome to football. Here's what happens. And like, I think Cody Benjamin wrote it or something, but it was like the intro is like, it's like the first paragraph is like how to score points. And it's like you move the ball up and down the field, and it's like literally just like that's the hilarious. Most absolute basic like description of football. And I found it amusing. How early would you guys like? How many dates would you have to be on before you sat your? This is hypothetical, right? Your famous girlfriend in the luxury box with your mom.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
I mean, Taylor Swift's a little different.
She's in a different stratosphere.
Yeah.
She's not gonna be out there sitting in gym pop.
Even if you're in the friend zone and you can get her to come up in there, like
that's true.
That's big.
Yeah. You make
I guess you're like, hey,
Swift and gym pop.
Yeah. Gin pop. I love a good gin pop reference. Yeah. Taylor Swift's not flying. She's not. Taylor Swift refers to commercial airlines as like public. She's like, I don't fly public. It's like actually it's commercial. It's not public, but sure. I don't know if she does that. She probably does.
So relatable. It's so relatable. Like it's always surprised to me when like people make comments like that where it's like so unrelatable to the audience.
Yeah. I don't think she said that.
Care, obviously.
But they're still huge fans.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, no, we love her though. Even though she's killing the environment with all these private planes, we love her though.
Yeah, right. I guess it's a good point where it's like you're like, Mom, look, I'm not really. No, there was a moment where Donna Kelce.
Okay, hold on. Who was more excited though, Donna or Travis to have Taylor Swift there?
Oh, that's a good question.
Donna, for sure. Did you see the video?
By the way, we don't know what happened after the game, so I'm just saying. I mean, we know Kelce scored on Sunday.
Yeah.
But did he score? I see.
We know he scored. We saw it.
We saw the touchdown.
He did. He did score.
He did touchdown.
Do you know that outfit he was wearing was a 1989 reference? It was a 1989. That's like the I got an email from a PR person who like does the outfit company or whatever. They're like, it's a 1989. I'm like, that's fascinating. Anyway,
was that coordinated? My God.
Yes. I don't really. How would you like to see me in that outfit, by the way?
No. I honestly don't want to see you in anything other than golf attire because you just constantly look like you're the type of guy that you walk into a golf club and you see and you're like, oh, there's Will.
Well, you know my
golf ready.
I'll tell you what. Let's take a break. Let's take a break. We'll come back. I'll tell you my philosophy on the clothes that I wear, and then we'll talk quickly about Thursday Night Football next.
First place I learned about death was a pet cemetery. Dead things buried in that land would come back as something else. Something's wrong. Continue.
He needs time to adjust.
Something's talking to him.
Read on.
So my philosophy. Welcome back, Pick Six Podcast. Dudes and Brady.
I hate scary
I
hate scary movies. For those that don't know, Pet Cemetery, Bloodlines, now streaming on Paramount Plus, I believe, or streaming October 6th on Paramount Plus. Of course, you want Paramount Plus. Having said that, I won't be watching that movie. I don't do scary movies. I do neither of y'all do them either. Really?
No.
It's not realistic to me. I'm not going to find myself in any of those positions.
I mean, I'll watch it to be a company man, but I'm telling you right now,
I'm not being a company man. I'm not.
I won't be a company man.
I'm not going to be in a cabin out in the middle of nowhere by myself.
Yeah.
I'm not taking walks in the middle of the night. Like, who does that?
You know what my problem is too? I get way too analytical with those movies where I'll be like, I'm like, this is where you die. Like this is the first decision you made that was bad.
Correct.
You then had an opportunity here, but you made the wrong decision again. Now you're in this position where like you're at least losing a limb, but you may survive. And then there's like the fourth bad decision, they're dead. Like you can't help it.
Right. It's like those old insurance commercials where they're like, let's go hide in the barn with the chainsaws hanging from the ceiling.
Like, what?
Why can't we
get in a running car?
Do you want to hear like a potential? This is like the when I because of my incredible. Do you want to hear a story, or do you want to talk about Thursday Night Football?
Quickly,
could you both?
Then we'll get to Thursday night.
All right, I'll tell you. Well, okay. First, I'll tell you the story. So I was at my parents' house. I can't remember like when this was. If I was living there, if I was just there for the weekend, or whatever it was. They were out of town. They live on a farm, right? Dirt road, long dirt road, like 2/3 of a mile. And this is like way back in the day when you had like you didn't have streaming services, okay? And I was watching 24, and I like ran out of like the Netflix. I've gotten the Netflix disc, and I was like ran out, but I needed more 24, so I drive up to the Blockbuster before they close to get the next disc. And I get the next disc. And I'm driving back, and I pull back, and there's a car idling in the like on the dirt road, like just sitting there with its lights on. I'm like, and it's a cop car, and I'm like, And I pull on, I'm like, sir, what's going on? He goes, we got a 911 call from the house. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, dude, I left like 15 minutes ago. He's like, yeah, we just got a 911. We're responding to a 911 call that nobody picked up. It was just like, came from the house. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, well, would you mind like coming down and just like, looking in the house?
100%.
Can you go in first, buddy?
Yeah.
This sounds like the beginning of a horror movie.
Can you call somebody else so we have backup too?
Yeah. Because I'm like, dude, look. And so we get down there, we park in, like as I mentioned, Black Dog Farm, right? 2 big black dogs. They start barking. The cop's like, nah, sorry, buddy. I think he's like, this looks good to me. And I was like, what? I ended up like locking myself like out of this porch, and of course it's like a glass porch. It's like I can see everything outside. I'm freaking out. I don't sleep the entire night like an idiot. I'm watching 24 like like intense. As it turns out, my dad's fax machine down in his downstairs office has died, and the some kind of power thing triggered it, and it called 911. So nothing happened, but it was like felt like the beginning of a horror movie, and was absolutely terrifying.
Nah, gotta go.
Yeah, plot twist: the cop is actually a serial killer, and now you're dead.
Gotta go. Gotta go.
And but to Brady's point, you know who didn't make the right decisions? Me. Like I should have left and gone and got a hotel.
I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, what was I thinking?
Back to your wardrobe real quick. My comment to people, especially who play golf, is if you always wear golf attire, which does look somewhat professional and presentable, no one ever knows whether you play it or not. So that's like the key to it. Is if you always wear golf attire, you can always get like a quick emergency 9 in or go play, and everyone's be like, "What were you doing today?" I was like, "Oh, I was at the office." They're like, "Were you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I wear this all the time in the office."
I wear golf
I had
shorts.
a meeting.
I currently dress. This is how I'm going to dress the rest of my life, as if I just played golf. I might be playing golf, or if somebody asked me to play golf, I can go play golf with them
On a whim. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm that guy in the office. Thursday Night Football, Lions, Packers. We'll get through this quickly. What?
Well, I mean, I'll just put it this way. I make the pick. I think I laid the 1.5 points with the Lions. I believe they're favored by 1.5.
Yep.
However, as soon as I make this pick at CBS Sports HQ on live air, Aaron Jones, Christian Watson expected to play. I was like, of course, which you knew that was a possibility. Obviously, a divisional game, even though it's on a short week, they've been out, so they'll have a shot. But the offensive line for Green Bay has been banged up. Offensive line for the Lions has been banged up. It's really going to be interesting to see which team comes out, who plays, and look, it should be a great matchup. I mean, these look to be the two top teams, at least right now, in the NFC North.
Yeah, as I look at this, you talked about the offensive line for Green Bay being banged up, and it seems like, they'll probably be without Bakhtiari or Jenkins again this week.
Zach Tom was questionable as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if you look at the Detroit Lions offensive line, according to their coach, seems like Taylor Decker's potentially going to play this week.
Vitae was on that as well.
Vitae is on it, so he might still be out. The crazy thing is Matt Nelson, the backup to Decker, was hurt too, so they moved.
Dan Skipper was questionable too.
Yeah, they moved Penei Sewell over to the left last week, and they moved Matt Nelson over to right. Now he's going to be out this game. So if Decker isn't playing, you're talking about I think Colby Salsdale, who they took I think in the 4th or 5th round, a rookie playing at right tackle this week. So if Decker comes back, it's the Detroit Lions have one of the best offensive lines in football. Even if Vitae doesn't play, I think they'll be all right. I'm leaning toward Detroit in the 1.5 like you, just because.
All right. Feel better now.
Yeah, David Montgomery supposedly could be coming back this week as well. So nice 1-2 punch with him and Gibbs in the backfield. And Ben Johnson, man. I mean, what he's been able to do with Jared Goff, as far as we talked about teams that motion and make an easy picture for the quarterback. He's one of the top in the league at doing it. And we worried about CJ Garner-Johnson being out, but Brian Branch, I just finished watching their film again. He is a dog. Oh, my God. The way he's able to move from safety to nickel and back and forth. They didn't lose much, and that's saying a lot because CJ Garner-Johnson is a hell of a player. They didn't lose much with Brian Branch coming in, and I questioned that pick when they made it because I felt like him and Branch are similar players, but I get it. You only signed CJ Garner-Johnson to a 1-year deal. It's a good thing they have Brian Branch. He's playing on a Pro Bowl level right now, so we know that Aiden Hutchinson can get after the quarterback. It was, I think, NFC Defensive Player of the Week this week, so if it's a banged-up offensive line, I mean, the Detroit Lions had 7 sacks last week, so it could be a long day for the Green Bay Packers. Really love what I've seen from Jordan Love. I think execution in the first half kind of got to them last week. 2 4th down calls. They got stopped, was bad execution on them. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I do like the Detroit Lions and how they play. Slipped up versus Seattle Seahawks. The defense didn't show up that game. I like them on the road at Green Bay. Give me the 1.5.
If the Lions can run the ball, I think they'll win. I agree with you. It's going to be a really close game, divisional game on a Thursday night, short week.
Devontae Campbell's banged up. That's been to your point, that's been the Achilles heel of the Green Bay Packers for a while now.
Yeah.
Because you look at Jared Goff's splits, and it's not like outrageous, but he's like 67% completions in a dome, 62% outdoors. The interceptions are up, the passer ratings down. Like he just a little bit, California guy, a little bit better in indoors. I think. No.
I don't know. I'm just saying you're the one throwing the label out there.
Trying to say man can't play in cold weather.
He's soft. He's Cali boy soft. No, I mean, this is like Derek Carr, I just think that I'm going to lean towards the Packers, but I think it'll be really, really close. And it's probably going to come down to a field goal, and that's how most NFL games come down to it. All right, that'll do it for us. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Before we go, I know we got to get up out of here, but we talked about the offensive lines on both sides. Sean Gary's coming on. 3 sacks last week. Now, they haven't made him a full-time starter. He's more of a sub rusher.
Right.
I wonder because he's built up that strength in the ACL.
He was on the injury report, too.
Yeah, or he's coming off the knee injury. So they've kind of gave him, they've kind of tailored back some of his reps. He hasn't started in base at all. Right. He's been just a sub rusher. I wonder if he feels more comfortable enough where it's a short week. You would think they probably keep the same plan. But if he's able to play more first and second down, that gives the Green Bay, Packers a big boost there, too.
All right. Love it. Tuesdays with Brady. That'll do it for us. For Brady. Pew, 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 pew. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Leave us a like on the YouTube page. Hit the subscribe button. And if you're, that's right. Yeah, is that your favorite Taylor Swift song? Yeah, you love it. You love T Swift. Don't act like you don't. If you're listening to an audio version, hit us with that 5-star review. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys later.